There's a really big problem in agriculture that everybody knows about, but no one entirely knows what to do about, and that's how to get young farmers into the game when farmland keeps on going up in value and people can't afford to buy it.
I had a mission to regenerate soil, and also the unique challenge of starting it as a new entrant to agriculture without a multi-generational legacy of infrastructure and land and equipment.
They'll tell you that in a lot of cases it's taking 2 pounds of bait to catch 1 pound of lobster. It doesn't make a lot of sense when you look at it.
The trouble is, when the pressure goes on to a different species, it also disappears very fast. The versatility of our product is we can make our bait out of any fish that's available.
Hello, I'm Tom Murphy. Welcome to Land and Sea. For generations, people of Prince Edward Island have made their livelihoods by fishing the sea and raising livestock. Like so many around the world, they now face the challenges of climate change and decreasing access to land and resources. But by making the most of what they have close to home, some islanders are finding new ways to breathe life into traditional industries.
Oat stem's getting a bit stemmy.
Flower buds are nice though.
Flowers are good? Yeah. It was good enough for them to eat. It's good enough for us.
In South Melville, PEI, Adam McLean and Jolene Queering have found a creative way to enter into the business of farming. They are shepherds with no land. Instead of owning the acreage they need to support their flock, they cooperate with a group of landowners for a mutually beneficial arrangement. Adam grew up on PEI, but didn't come from a farming family.
So there are only so many avenues into farming with limited financial resources, and one of them is managing livestock in a lean, light way on somebody else's land.
Adam and Jolene rotate their sheep around the land of 3 neighboring properties that were not otherwise actively farmed.
At the very least, they want to see the land open and used. On my farm, I don't need herbicides, pesticides, fungicides, which for some of these landowners is attractive. My promise to them is that we're going to improve the water holding capacity, the soil, the biodiversity every year on this farm.
They are 5 years into the process, but to keep their operation light, lean, and agile, they have no permanent structures.
Just living small, I guess. I don't want to say simply, because simple, it's not simple at all. It's a lot of work when people talk about the simple life. It's definitely not that.
We don't own the land on which we farm. So we live in a house with wheels, our workshop's on wheels, our extra house and bus and office are on wheels. If we had to, it would kill us, but we could move on. I didn't purchase a barn, I didn't inherit a barn, there was no barn already built. So for me this was important, and I chose the sheep I purchased to start my flock accordingly. Providing sheltered spaces in the woods against freezing rain, snowstorms, what have you. This is all of the shelter they really require. This costs a lot less money and means that, I can expand my barn effectively with an afternoon in the woods with a chainsaw and create more space for more sheep.
Jolene grew up on a farm in the prairies, so she's comfortable with the ever-evolving nature of a farm.
Growing up on a farm with lots of animals and kind of isolated in Saskatchewan definitely drew me out here and made me more understanding too of Adam's lifestyle and the amount of work that he needs to put in, and if I want to hang out with him, I really need to go work with him.
Yeah, definitely still need to wire this up. I think I said that last weekend. How's it going, Peter? Watch the trench. We're burying electrical conduit.
Very good. This is pretty deep. Holy.
Yeah, well, it's 240 volts.
Yeah, I guess you want it under, huh?
Yeah, exactly. The homestead's constantly a work in progress.
For Peter Feldstein, this arrangement goes beyond just managing his piece of land. It addresses the crisis of intergenerational transfer.
There's a really big problem in agriculture that everybody knows about, but no one entirely knows what to do about, and that's how to get young farmers into the game when farmland keeps on going up in value and people can't afford to buy it. So this was really, the relationship that I have with Adam and Jolene is really important to me because it means that they can farm.
For Debbie of the neighboring Dunsford family, it means the legacy of farming can live on.
Adam was such a good keeper of the land, and my dad was like that as well. And I know he would have been thrilled to know that somebody's farming the land because his children don't farm. So when Adam came, it just seemed to be the right fit.
But for Adam and Jolene, it isn't just about living the farm lifestyle. It's about making an impact.
The state of the world soils is in not great shape. There's a lot of agricultural practices that are depleting our soil resources. Without our soil resource, we're going to have a significant challenge keeping everybody fed. Without soils actively breathing and cooling the planet through vegetation, we're going to exacerbate the climate crisis. So from my perspective, the biggest challenge of our lives is regenerating soil.
Last year's drought brought the reality of climate change to the forefront.
Last year was, I think they're saying, kind of the worst in 20 years here. It's stressful. The last thing I want to do in a drought is to overgraze.
Adam originally studied biology and chemistry with the intention of becoming a physician. But after traveling the world, he came to the conclusion that healing soil through land stewardship was his true calling.
Sheep are super particular. They only eat their favorite bits of a bale and leave all the stem. So the bale was here. They're all around here eating it, around a ring feeder, manuring, urinating, dropping stem on the ground. And it kind of looks like a mess right now the following spring, but we have tons of fungus coming up here, which are decomposing the stems into what will become soil. And I noticed in the drought last year that some of the only grass that was growing in July and August was around these rings where we had extra fertility input, but also the water holding capacity from that new soil. So I'm a soil farmer, I'm a sheep farmer, grass farmer, but also a fungus farmer to keep all of that going.
Coming up next on Land and Sea, declining fish stocks are a real problem for lobster fishermen, but an alternative bait may offer a much-needed solution.
It's tough to change what works, like the way the fishery is how it was found to work. It was take fish, catch lobster. Yeah. But it's just grown so big that the pressure on the fish stock is so immense that the fish can't keep up to the demand for the bait.
It's the second last day of the lobster season in 9 Mile Creek, PEI. After weeks of long hours, fishermen scramble to haul up as much as they can before landing day.
These are the canners. These are the markets here. So you can see they're bigger. And we try to do it as quickly as we can so they're not waiting because they've been out for 14, 16 hours.
Wally McPhee and Mark Prevost started out as lobster fishermen, but now they contribute in a different way. They support their community by selling traditional bait and gear and buying and storing lobster. They've also developed an alternative bait sausage they hope will change things for the better.
We just seen there was a lot of waste in the fishery with the bait the way they use it. Sometimes it spoils before it can be used.
They'll tell you that in a lot of cases it's taking 2 pounds of bait to catch 1 pound of lobster. It doesn't make a lot of sense when you look at it.
Warming waters and increased global demand for lobster have reduced the main bait stocks, mackerel and herring, to a point of crisis. Billy McDougall, a fifth-generation fisherman, has seen things change rapidly.
We used to be able to come out to the bay here and get 75 or 80 trays to start for your season to start fishing, but now you can't get anything at all. Like, you might get 1 or 2 fish. So gas pro now is a widely used bait, and it's the only fresh bait available now. So it'll be the next thing on the endangered species list, to be my guess. But
the topic came up about the bait. We recognized that there could be a better way of doing it. There was other products available that we tried. We tried them down here in 9 Mile Creek, and the boys didn't like them very much. So then we determined that we should try to invent one. We had a simple idea basically, but it took traction and worked.
But turning the idea into a reality didn't happen overnight.
We're well into our 5th year.
Yeah.
And the first year was like, it would be like part-time work, research and development. I was making the bait and Mark was fishing it and testing it until we found something that worked.
There's hundreds of trials that didn't work well at all, and it ended up being not an easy process, but really simple, if that makes any sense. I mean, we just narrowed it down to what the fishermen are already using, which is all fish. We added a little bit of magic, we'll call it, just to create an erosion rate, so it'll last longer.
Now they've converted a vacant warehouse to an alternative bait plant that can produce in volume.
As it is right now, it's like 20 to 25% quality fish, we call it, but that's whole round ground mackerel or herring. It's the whole fish ground into the mix. And then the remainder of it basically is byproduct that we get from the fish processors, fishing industry, from haddock racks and stuff like that.
Casing's plant-based organic. This casing that we get here is made out of banana peels and some other secret ingredients. Being able to use as much byproduct as we're using, it's still quality byproduct. It's great fish that's just being wasted. So we're just putting it in the sausage and using it. The bottom line is it catches lobster.
Katie Schlade is a senior fisheries advisor for Oceans North, an environmental NGO that works on marine conservation.
We use the whole fish, so all the byproduct, the bone, the skin, scales, everything.
And then you have some kind of a binding agent in here as well?
Yeah.
She sees that alternative bait strategies are essential to the future of the fishery.
So with regards to sustainability of the lobster fishery, what we're really concerned about right now is actually the use of bait. And that's because the two main species that are being used, herring and mackerel, are critically depleted. And I became really interested in bait masters in particular because they were former fishermen themselves, and they were using fish byproduct. So to me it seemed like sort of a gateway bait, if you will. So it seemed like something that fishermen might be more willing to try because they come from the community themselves and they're still using fish.
In addition to conservation, the bait helps fishermen because it lasts longer.
This seemed to be an opportunity for a different way to do it, a more sustainable way. Maybe create something that would fish longer was what we were aiming at. We never tried to make anything that would fish better. We know that we can't do that. But to make it fish longer, we're getting 4 or 5 days out of it in this time of year in the warm water. Sometimes you get 2 weeks out of it in the spring.
We just put it in the pouch and it'll attract the lobster. And a lot of the stuff will eat that stuff, but this stuff will stay because the sand fleas and other stuff doesn't eat it as much. So I find it seems to help a lot.
But with such a short season to make an annual income, it's hard for some fishermen to take a risk on something new.
My understanding is that bait use is a real kind of a cultural practice. You use what your grandfather used and you always use the same thing. So it's a really hard thing to change.
We're getting repeat customers, which is a good sign. It's new and it's different, and as much as we tried to simulate what a typical fish would look like and feel, when this is thawed out, it feels a lot like a fish would be. To explain to a fisherman that it's all fish, it's not as easy as it would seem.
Others see the innovation of bait masters as a potential for investment and growth. Roger Sark works as an advisor for the fishermen of the Maliseet First Nation in southern New Brunswick.
All the communities that I talk to are very interested because it's sustainable. It's new, there's not very many people into it, and I think they realize that the first ones into this may benefit in the long run.
This is a rather small concept in the big industry. There's a lot of fishing communities around the Maritimes, for example, where this could be set up at this scale.
We've just scaled the whole concept down to a small community-based business. We travel quite a bit promoting our bait. There's always an old building ready for development, and it could support that community.
But coastal communities know that change is coming, no matter what. With mackerel stocks so low, radical quota cuts were recently announced.
The minister just recently announced a quota reduction of 50% and mentioned that if the stocks don't improve in 2 years, we might actually see a closure of the fishery.
So with the reduction in the quota, I think people are starting to recognize that there is a big problem coming our way.
Coming up on Land and Sea, the traditional livelihoods of Prince Edward Island must face the challenges that climate change bring to the future of their industries.
The reality is there are growing calls to reduce meat consumption, and I can get behind some of that, but I think the argument isn't as nuanced as it could be. This is a surprise this morning. I thought we were done lambing about a month and a half ago.
In the rolling hills of South Melville, PEI, Adam McLean uses innovative farming techniques to make an environmental impact and offset climate change.
Sheep! I had a mission to regenerate soil and also the unique challenge of starting it as a new entrant to agriculture without a multi-generational legacy of infrastructure and land and equipment.
As new young farmers who did not inherit their land, he and his partner Jolene had to find a creative solution to get started.
I met with some landowners, had some conversations, and identified that we shared certain ethics or goals with respect to land management. This is my home farm and I don't own any of it, so I have land stewardship goals, they have goals, we work to make sure those goals overlap.
Over time, small farms are decreasing and fewer young farmers can get into the field.
We were just so happy that a farmer was interested, a young farmer too, was interested in looking after the land. We've had conversations about maybe eventually he might purchase the land, but farmland is outrageous right now, so I don't know how any young farmer would start.
But young farmers like Adam and Jolene are also looking into ways their industry can help to offset climate change.
When I think about real sustainability too, from my perspective, it's also taking into consideration the climate reality. So I'm feeding these sheep kelp as one strategy to reduce their methane output. I'm managing the forages and the grazing with the intention to help sequester carbon. We're building soil here. That soil organic matter, is coming from atmospheric carbon dioxide.
But climate change is making people think about the sustainability of eating meat.
It's not a matter of meat versus not meat. It's a matter of what does that whole system look like? What's the balance? When people talk about plant-based foods, like I'm seeing plant-based food right here. Soy, wheat, corn, pea, monocultures on a massive scale. I'm looking forward to the day when we have better information on a biodiversity and an environmental impact of junk processed fake meat food versus real pasture-based protein. And it's an interesting conversation right now. People like simple answers. There are no simple answers.
The folks of 9 Mile Creek who depend on the sea also have to find new ways to sustain their traditional way of life.
Unfortunately, it needs to change. We see the landings of lobsters only increase over time. We expect that that might continue even in the short term in the face of climate change. And yet you see the bait products that they're using continue to decline. So we need to address this problem.
Ex-fishermen themselves, Wally McPhee and Mark Prevost, have developed Baitmaster's alternative bait to offer a solution.
The trouble is, when the pressure goes on to a different species, it also disappears very fast. The versatility of our product is we can make our bait out of any fish that's available. So if it's redfish that everybody's using for bait, we can make it a sustainable choice by putting it in our product.
One of these would be equal to 4 mackerel, like 4 pounds. So when they use one of these, 4 fish stay in the water, and so.
And hopefully can fish as much.
Yeah, I mean they have to fish, it's their livelihood, and that's not going to change, and they have to catch lobster, so they need something that'll work. but they're still going to feel good about using byproduct. And as long as it's got to be good quality byproduct, and
it has to work.
And it has to work. It's got to catch fish. Yeah, that's the big one.
Fishermen of the Maritimes are watching the problems south of the border as a warning of what climate change may bring.
A lot to do with the temperature of the ocean is warming up. So if you look at what happened further south from here, you can see how it started down in the warmer waters and it's working its way this up north. As close as Maine, southern Maine, a lot of the fish are extinct that we use. So
we all deal with this problem of the bait fishery declining. So we all got to think of creative solutions on how to preserve the fishery, keep people going out, their livelihoods, but then getting creative. And with the bait sausages, it's clearly a success.
So we seem to be maybe the only alternative bait company that is able to produce in volume right now.
For Billy McDougall, strategies like the Baitmaster Alternative Bait are key to sustaining the industry for his son and future generations.
To me, that's what's special, is being able to watch him do it. And, like, I think conservation should be more thought about, because people that are going to be part of the fishery in the future don't have a voice right now, but they should.
It's been a lot of work to launch, but these islanders are offering new ways that traditional livelihoods can sustain a modern, changing world.
Yeah, we hope 300,000 units.
300,000 units this year.
Yeah. So that's 300,000 sausages, and it's like 4 to 1. So 300,000 keeps 1 million fish in the water, you know. And to us, that's a good thing for everybody.
So sustainability is a good goal, but I'm more focused on regeneration, actually using these animals as a means to build soil, build landscapes, sequester carbon, and I want to see my operation be a net environmental benefit. Consumers want high animal welfare, they want good environmental impact on the land, and they're concerned about climate change.